Have you ever noticed that the harder people try to be happy, the more miserable they become? We live in a world obsessed with positivity. Hustle harder, smile more, manifest success, be extraordinary. But what if that pressure is exactly what's making people anxious, burned out, and emotionally exhausted? What if the real secret to a better life isn't caring about more things, but caring about fewer things? And this is exactly where the subtle art of not giving a fuck becomes incredibly powerful. Because this book doesn't tell you to become perfect. It tells you to stop wasting your energy on things that don't matter. And once you understand that, your entire mindset starts to change. Imagine waking up every day feeling like you're behind in life. You scroll through social media and everyone seems richer, happier, more successful, more attractive. And without realizing it, you start believing that your life is somehow not enough. This is where most people get it wrong. According to Mark Manson, the modern world has created an unhealthy obsession with feeling good all the time. We avoid pain, avoid failure, avoid discomfort, and then wonder why we feel empty. The book begins with a shocking idea. Life is not about avoiding problems. Life is about choosing which problems are worth having. Think about this for a second. Every meaningful achievement comes with struggle. A healthy relationship requires difficult conversations. Building a business means uncertainty. Getting fit means pain and discipline. So the question isn't, how do I avoid suffering? The real question is, what am I willing to suffer for? And honestly, that changes everything. Because happiness isn't found in comfort. It's found in meaning. One of the most controversial ideas in the book is when Mark Manson says, "You are not special." At first, that sounds harsh. But listen carefully. The world constantly tells people they're destined for greatness, that they should become extraordinary. And while motivation sounds inspiring, it creates a hidden problem. Because if everyone is trying to be exceptional, ordinary life suddenly feels like failure. Most people never realize this until it's too late. They spend years chasing validation, trying to impress strangers, trying to prove their worth. And deep down, they become terrified of being average. But the book flips this idea upside down. It says accepting your limitations is actually freedom. Because when you stop trying to be amazing at everything, you finally focus on what truly matters. Think about the people who seem genuinely peaceful. They're not obsessed with looking successful every second. They know who they are. They know what matters to them. And they let go of the rest. This is the subtle art. Not giving zero Fs about everything, but giving your energy only to the things that deserve it. Your family, your purpose, your health, your values, your growth. Everything else becomes background noise. Here's one of the deepest lessons in the entire book. Pain is unavoidable, but modern culture treats discomfort like a disease. People distract themselves constantly. Endless scrolling, entertainment, shopping, temporary pleasure, quick dopamine. Why? Because sitting alone with uncomfortable emotions feels terrifying. But what if discomfort is actually the doorway to growth? And this is exactly where the book becomes incredibly powerful. Mark explains that emotions are feedback mechanisms. If something hurts, it's often pointing towards something important. Failure teaches. Rejection teaches. Embarrassment teaches. The people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who learn how to handle it. Imagine someone trying to start a business. At first, they fail. Nobody buys. People criticize them. Self-doubt appears. Most people quit right there. But successful people understand something different. Pain is part of the process. The struggle is not proof you're broken. It's proof you're growing. And honestly, that perspective can completely transform how you face challenges. Now, here's where the book gets deeply personal. Mark Manson introduces a life-changing idea. You may not be responsible for everything that happens to you, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. That's a hard truth, because blaming people feels easier. Blaming parents, blaming society, blaming luck, blaming circumstances. And yes, sometimes life is unfair. Terrible things happen. But the moment you believe you have no control, you also lose your power. Think about this carefully. Two people can experience the exact same failure. One becomes bitter. The other becomes wiser. What's the difference? Responsibility. The book argues that maturity begins when people stop asking, "Whose fault is this?" and start asking, "What can I do now?" That shift creates emotional strength. And this applies to everything: relationships, money, career, mental discipline, personal growth. Because when you take responsibility for your choices, you stop becoming a victim of your emotions. And suddenly, life feels more controllable. Not easier, but clearer. Most people think confidence means being sure about everything. But according to this book, true growth comes from doubt. That sounds strange, right? But think about it. The most dangerous people in the world are often the ones completely convinced they're right. Meanwhile, intelligent people question themselves. They stay open. They adapt. Mark Manson explains that many personal problems come from unhealthy certainty. People become emotionally attached to beliefs that no longer serve them. I must always succeed. People must like me. I can't fail. I need everyone's approval. And when reality breaks those beliefs, they suffer. But what if you stopped treating your thoughts like absolute truth? What if growth required letting old identities die? This is where real transformation happens. Because life constantly changes, and people who adapt emotionally become stronger than people who pretend to know everything. Sometimes the smartest thing you can say is, "I might be wrong." That single sentence can save relationships, careers, and even entire lives. Near the end of the book, Mark Manson talks about something most people avoid thinking about completely: death. And strangely enough, this becomes one of the most inspiring parts of the entire book. Because when people forget life is temporary, they waste time on meaningless things: petty arguments, fake status, online validation, constant comparison. But when you truly understand that your time is limited, clarity appears. Suddenly, you ask better questions. Who do I really care about? What kind of life actually matters to me? What memories do I want to create? What legacy do I want to leave behind? Most people never realize this until it's too late. The book reminds us that death is not just an ending. It's what gives life urgency and meaning. Without limits, nothing would matter. And honestly, that idea hits hard. Because one day all the stress, ego, and noise disappear. What remains are the moments that were real. The people you loved, the courage you showed, the values you lived by. That's it. So, what's the real message of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? It's not about becoming careless. It's about becoming intentional, choosing what deserves your attention, accepting that pain is part of growth, letting go of impossible perfection, taking responsibility for your life, and understanding that meaning matters more than constant happiness. This book became famous because it says the things most self-help books avoid saying. You are flawed. Life is difficult. Failure is normal, and happiness is not permanent. But strangely enough, accepting these truths makes life feel lighter. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you finally focus on what truly matters. And maybe that's the real freedom people are searching for. Not a perfect life, not endless positivity, not constant success. Just a meaningful life, a real life, a life where your struggles actually matter. And once you understand that, you stop wasting energy trying to impress the world and start building a life that genuinely feels worth living.